So I wanted to talk about some things and related to what I shared on my stories yesterday and would have been a lot more useful for me to share yesterday. But yeah, this whole live thing is new. This whole video thing is new. So it's on the topic of human design, and specifically it's related to not self, although I don't know if I'll even get there. And it's really about this whole concept of life just happening through us. That I said something about basically we are a conduit for the life that just is. And it's not that I don't believe Ashley exists, okay? Or that I'm an illusion in a sense that I'm not real or I don't matter. It's more that Ashley is not even personal. It's personal because I'm living this life and I am Ashley and I am experiencing it, and it's very real to me as my human. But life, the life that Ashley is meant to live, that my body is meant to live out, would be going on whatever Ashley thinks about it, or whatever my story or whatever my self-narration is about it. And there's a big topic in human design about no choice, that we're all basically, at the end of the day, helpless to what and who we are. And what's even trippier is we're helpless to perhaps the decisions that we make. There's all kinds of interesting neuroscience about even when speaking. Okay, forget about taking a physical action like me lifting this cup up. Before I speak, the neurons in my brain are going off that I'm about to speak. So before I even speak, unconsciously, it's already been signaled that I am going to speak before I'm even aware that that's what I'm about to do. Okay? All kinds of neuroscience research about this. But I don't want to get too far on that topic, one, because I don't really know much of anything about it, and it doesn't really matter for what I really want to talk about. And what I really want to, how I want to contextualize it is in the context of my whole, not my whole life, but just life. Like life as it's actually being lived. The actual context of what is going on right now. And so, this jasmine flower smells amazing. So when I talked in my stories about, so I had posted I reposted someone's story, a meme, a human design meme about, one of the hard pills to swallow in human design is that manifestation has no place in it. And she was actually talking about something different than the road that I went on. That whole topic in human design is really about when we're manifesting, we are thinking up the thing we want and how to get it. Okay, that's what human design is decidedly not about. Because then you're making your mind the central instrument to how you get the thing, which completely undermines the whole point of strategy and authority. Okay? So the reason that manifestors are called manifestors is not because they are, and it's interesting because I have spoken to manifestors who think that them as a type called a manifestor means that they have like superhuman manifestation ability. And that's not what that means. What it means is you have a motor center connected to the throat center. That's what makes a manifestor. And then if you're a manifesting generator, you also have the sacral connected in there. A manifestor type doesn't have this cycle defined. So a manifestor has a motor to the throat, and so what that means is they have an ability to speak, and they can make things happen through their voice. It's why their whole strategy is to wait, to inform, to tell people what to do. The power comes through the voice. And that's what manifestation is speaking to in human design, is actually it's about that throat center being defined. The whole crux of manifestation comes to what is spoken, not doing according to the mind and what the mind wants. But that's a whole other topic, because I don't really know much of anything about it. That's not even what I want to get into, okay? And that's why it's taken me so long to do this video, because I don't even know what I want to talk about, but I know something needs to be said here. And it's the area that I was getting into, which is more kind of philosophical and kind of more mystical. And so I wanted to contextualize it with what was actually going on in my life when I said that. When I said, I said a story, something about like, even manifestors are not manifesting. That we all just have our function. We're all part of this larger program. So even manifestors are not the ones deciding to create who they're going to inform or what they're going to initiate in the world. They are still just responding to life, moving through them, that it's time to initiate, it's time to inform. That they're just a function like the rest of us. Like generators, it's correct to respond now. Projectors, they receive their invitation. So I wanted to place that in the context of my life as it's going on right now, or what was happening when I said that, because I'm in my villa in a small island in Indonesia in the middle of a pandemic. So let's just get there for a second. Do you think I planned to get to a small island, 2.5 kilometers in perimeter, walking, in Indonesia, middle of a pandemic? Do you think I planned this? So, first of all, I know that I did not plan this because of details in my human design. So you don't have to believe any of that is real. I don't even have to believe that's real. I don't have to believe that I'm a quad right, that I have all right consciousness, that I'm not here to plan, I'm not here to strategize, because I have no capacity for strategizing and doing things like planning for the future, what's going to happen next. I don't have to even believe that. All I have to be paying attention to is my experience of how the fuck did I get here? So, I'm on a tiny island in Indonesia in the middle of the pandemic. How did I even get to this island in particular? Okay, so back in February, see, I didn't even know I was going to go here, but here we go. Back in February, I was living with my mom in San Diego. I had just moved from New Mexico to San Diego, and I thought it was to save money. Didn't really save much money. What I realized is I really wanted to be there to work out some things with my mom and for the ocean. I miss the ocean more than I knew. Okay? And incidentally, my environment in human design is artificial shores, and it doesn't necessarily need meaning to be on like a natural coastline or something, or but for me it is quite true. I just feel better by the wild waterways. So in February I knew I wanted to return to Bali, and I had been here last time. Bali is just a short boat ride from here. I've been here last in 2019 for 3 months. I shared a story about that recently on my Instagram, a post. And I didn't know when I'd want to be back. But I knew I'd return at some point. You know, the pandemic happened. I started my work, my business in the world in 2020, and then 2021 came around, and in February I was like, I miss Bali. It's just kind of like that. But I knew it wasn't time. I knew it was not time to plan for anything. I knew it wasn't time. So, see, me and linear time like this, I don't even know when I actually bought my ticket. I don't know if it was a month before. I know I got here in July, early July. But I really waited to buy my ticket. I think it was finally my mom who like basically invited me to buy my ticket. And okay, so anyway, so what I wanted to really get to was, so then I get my vaccine so that I can travel. And I am, by the way, I did also get invitations to actually come here, which is really interesting. Anyway, so I was in quarantine in Jakarta, and you know, it was intense for 8 days. The most intense thing was not feeling the wind, like not feeling fresh air for 8 days in a hotel room. Everything else was fine. Like the shitty food, that was all fine, but not feeling air, that really did me in. I did have a window that I could see out and I could see birds and everything. But during that experience towards the end, I thought I wanted to go to Bali. And for some reason, I just kept thinking like, wow, after being in isolation, the motorbikes, all of that, that's just, I don't want a lot of activity right now. I want something quiet. And I remembered, while I was in this hotel room, I remembered of the Gili Islands. Okay? I remembered that my host, Airbnb host, the last month that I was in Bali in 2019, had told me about, hey, you have to go to Gili. You have to go to Gili's. And I was like, oh, okay, you know. I knew I wasn't going to go there that time. And then all of a sudden, I remembered, while in Jakarta in quarantine, Gili. So I looked up the different islands, and so I decided to go. And I got here, and I've been here ever since. This is my 3rd month, and I haven't even gone to Bali. I think I'm going to go later this month. Okay, and then this month, let's fast forward, I'm sure there's many more details, but I'm just going where I want to go. So I'm turning 30 at the end of this month. And, you know, there's different ideas about when you really begin your 6-line phase. But I think the most important one is just, when do you feel it? When do you feel that shift of suddenly like observer mode, like aloof, like you just want to watch life? And that's what I'm finally shifting into as of this month, as of finding this villa. And I was thinking about, should I go into details of how I even got this villa? Basically, I had a villa right across the way here in the same compound, the same owner, and it was just 1 bedroom, and at night, whenever I take a shower, when I use the hot water, the electricity would go out, the power, and so there was some issue with the electrical system. So he had me stay here for 2 nights, and while someone came in and fixed it. So it got fixed, and I was like, you know, I actually want to stay here, and it's this 2-bedroom, and it's really sweet, and it's just perfect. And ever since I've been here for, again, me and time, a week, 2 weeks, probably in 2 weeks, I don't want to go anywhere. Like, I'm suddenly in this very 6-line body state. on the roof state of like, you know, I'm a fourth line personality. I'm a 4/6 profile. I'm a fourth line personality. And, you know, my mind goes, well, you gotta go out in the world. You have to go and, you know, be social and talk to people. And then my body is like, I just want to be here, you know? And so even from that perspective, okay, so like today, my foot has been healing. This is actually the whole thing that I was going to talk about to contextualize all of this. My foot has been healing, both feet, and I haven't been able to walk. So usually every morning I go walk around the island, and I haven't been able to. That's why I keep looking over here, because it's like, it's opened up again. It still hasn't scabbed over. Yeah. So I usually walk around the island. I haven't been able to do that because I've been allowing my foot to heal, and I haven't gone in the ocean for like 2 weeks. So today, finally, I was like, well, I just wrote a whole post about this, related to my decision-making process and kind of talking about how it works for me. There's just so much to talk about. There's so many things going on. Whew. Okay. So yeah, I went in the ocean this morning. Really nice. And so on the topic of the fourth line personality, so when I went to get in the ocean, this place that I went to, like, they were closed. Like, you couldn't get a coffee, which has never happened before. It's a place that I originally stayed at when I got to this island. And so I got in the ocean and I swam, and then, you know, they're like, oh, we're closed the next 3 days. And so my next option was to go to this other coffee place. And it's kind of like, it's by the harbor, and it's really like a thoroughfare, and there's tons of people you always run into. And I always like, I have this table that's like kind of isolated, and it's just like all to myself, and people can leave you alone. It's more quiet. And so I went there and ran into a friend, and you know, so even then, okay, my body was going out just to experience the ocean, and I was like so happy. I was like as gleeful as a little kid. And then couldn't have the experience that I wanted, couldn't get a coffee, whatever. So my body goes to the next coffee place. And there, my fourth line personality is satisfied, sees people I know. But still, while in this state of being in my own little space, in this table, being like, I'm just over here, observer mode. And you can watch as a projector, people going, what is she doing? Like, just because I'm in an aloof mode doesn't mean it's like the correct people still come. Okay? There's something else that wants to be said there. I think it's related to the foot and these last few days, and the space that I was in when I talked about life is just happening through us. So while I've been allowing my foot to chill out, I've been wondering, like, you know, because I'm constantly looking at life symbolically. Why is this happening? Maybe not why, but why? Like, what is the meaning, right? I'm single definition, 28, 38, constantly under pressure. What is the meaning? It's like all I ultimately care about. Intuitively understanding what is the meaning of the thing, right? That's all that's consistently me in my design. So here I am in my villa, not going anywhere, trying to find ways to physically exercise, which is actually something I realized today, and I was writing about it earlier, that because I have just individual definition, you know, my root to the spleen, it's all about my connection to my body. Physical exercise, movement, when I'm in like a stuck period in my individual process, because all individual life forces, there is like a phase of being stuck. Like you're waiting for the next mutation, and you're like in this phase of being stuck, and then suddenly, you know, it's like individual circuitry is also the knowing circuitry, so you suddenly know and there's a breakthrough. So usually when I'm in my stuck phase, I will find a way to connect to my body and get energy out, right? It's connected to the root. Root is this adrenalized pressure. It's a pressure to move. It's very intense. It's a very intense pressure center. It's a motor. Pressure and motor is not the same thing, but it's both a pressure center and a motor. And I'm an energy projector since I have a motor. So usually I will get into my body and do some kind of sustained activity in order to work through that kind of frustration, and to be able to just work through that stuck period. That's what really works for me. And while I've been kind of cooped up in my place, while I've been allowing my feet to heal, I haven't had that opportunity, doing little circuit workouts and stuff like that, it makes my body stronger, and I get that kind of outlet, but my mind is still just as crazy. I need to get energy out over a period of time. So that morning when I talked about these things, yesterday morning I guess it was, it was the first morning where I woke up, first morning since I've probably been on the island, as relaxed as I've been here. When I wake up in the morning, as soon as I wake up, immediately my first thought is I want to get outside. I have to feel the non-air conditioned mosquito bites, just natural air and just the humidity and the heat, and I love it, So I did that and I had my coffee, but then for some reason, and I was off Instagram during that period too. I wanted to get back into bed and I wanted to just sit there. I wanted to just watch the light come up and listen to the birds and the cicadas as they're going right now, if you can hear them, and just have my coffee and just watch it all. I have these beautiful sliding glass doors and another window here you can open, and I love the space. But that's what's interesting is I love this space, but I've never woken up in the morning and just allowed myself just to enjoy this space. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. So this is the whole thing. So yes, I'm an energy projector, and yes, I have energy that I need to move out of my body, right? And it helps me get to that intuitive place of that individual life force, of individual knowing, of empowerment, right? 3828. But I have to pay attention to the fact that I cannot move the way that I normally would. The forward moving force of the instrument that I do that with, I can't use right now. Okay? Or then, more so now, then. And I was still, even with that fact, struggling to keep still. Which is why the experience had to continue. And it wouldn't heal as fast as it did, because I wasn't just sitting with myself. And I talked to a friend, a healer friend, and she was like, we were talking on video, and I was just my mind was just and she was like, okay, if I could just reach over and turn the dial down a bit, your downloads are coming in so fast. And I was talking about my session with Francesca and how this kind of opened up the whole issues I've had with my feet. My connection to the earth seems to be off my channel and whatever. I don't want to get into it, but this is all part of it. And so I haven't felt grounded. There's been so much energy just up here, just, which has been beautiful, and I've been able to share a lot that's been coming through. But the whole thing is, my healer friend was reminding me, is that, like, you have all this coming in, it's coming in, it's coming out, it's coming in, it's coming out, and you're constantly receiving it, and then you're just giving it back out. It's not coming down through your body and back down into the earth. You yourself, I am not receiving. I'm constantly giving back whatever I'm receiving, but I'm not receiving for myself. So, the feet thing had to happen, even though I resisted it happening by not just sitting with myself. I finally got it yesterday morning. I finally got, oh, right? Like, oh, I get it now. I get it now. And then that's what was so interesting about this morning. As I woke up this morning, even more in a frazzled state. I was in like a dark state, and we had the moon in the gate 36, which is like literally called like the darkening of the light. I remember waking up and being like, wow, I am feeling dark right now. And I remembered where the moon was. And so I didn't take it so seriously. But yeah, it was really interesting. I woke up, I came downstairs, and I was like very present to how dark things felt. And I was like, and so this is a whole other part of it, is so our design, where you have centers that are open, we think those are the only conditioning elements in our chart, right? If you don't know a lot of human design, you think, well, those open centers are the source of my not self, and that's where I can be pressured to be what I'm not. That's where I can take in conditioning forces of the outside world, people around me, and it can pressure my mind to do things. It's going to throw me off of who I am, and yes, that is true. It's also, once you learn to dismantle your mind as your authority, that's when they also become your greatest sources of wisdom, and your greatest university, your greatest learning experiences come from those open centers, okay? People tend to not know about that side. But that does take deconditioning, and I'm telling you, like, I don't even know the time, 3 years in, I don't know, probably I've only really seriously been doing this for, 2 years. But I'm just beginning to see the way that my solar plexus is conditioned, and my ego, and my G center. I'm not even right there. This is kind of part of what I also want to get to, is seeing the conditioning of my ajna. And just seeing the tip of the iceberg there. Seeing how I am pressured, which has to be from my head center, if not other people in my life who have a defined ajna, which is definitely true also, to be mentally certain. This is one of the big topics I wanted to talk about related to the not self. Do I want to go there right now, or do I want to backtrack a bit to what I was saying? Okay, now let's go there right now. So when I shared about, look, like, life is just happening through us. Life is just happening through us. Like our life would be what it is. Let's not get too philosophical here, so I don't think I can. But life is just happening, like, so do I want to get into human design here? Okay. G center, magnetic monopole, holding together the two parts of our design, the red, and the black, the personality. Okay? From your perspective, it's gonna be like that. The red, the design, the body, the life that is just being lived through you, that your body is going to live out, regardless of what the personality thinks its story is. The red, its life, is in a straight line, birth to death, point A to point B. The body is going there, it's going to death no matter what, right? We know this. But what does that mean in relation to the life that you're here to live? If you know that it's a straight line from birth to death, that we're all going to die, what does that say about the actual narrative of the life that's lived in between them? I don't know. It's just a philosophical question, right? But it's interesting, right? Personality, meanwhile, Ashley, I think of my life, whatever I think of it, and I am indeed living a life, but it doesn't change the fact that the body is still going from birth to death. Now, when I mention this in my stories, I think I was pretty light about it, which I think is why I could say it. Like, we all think we're doing something. Even manifestors are not manifesting. Manifestors are just part of the program like the rest of us, like every other type, like every other person. And when I called us all pawns, it's not like a better word, a more beautiful word would be like a part of a mosaic. Like it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But it's a perspective that seems and is pretty kind of agnostic, pretty anti-theistic. It's not very godly in its scope, right? And I think that's part of what can seem so like about it, like that can almost make you upset, or it can touch something on a feeling level. And it's funny because in human design, my motivation is hope, but the mode of that is anti-theism, anti-theistic, and then theistic. So I flip back and forth between a very kind of like reverential, sacred, godly kind of way of being motivated through life, and then the opposite of just like this perspective of like we're all just a part. But that's the thing, it doesn't make me any less reverential of whatever's going on. I mean, I'm like I mentioned that in my stories, like I'm a terrible cook. Like I'm not the domestic stuff, the human stuff is difficult for me. Living on the material plane thing is difficult for me. But I still love it. I still think it's incredibly fucking beautiful. In fact, it's probably why I can enjoy it so much, is because it's still so like, wow, you know? And the theistic part, when I am in moments of complete and total desperation and like despair in my life, I pray. In those moments, do I feel like I'm speaking to something? Sometimes. Sometimes there's a hope. My motivation, there's a hope that there's something, that I'm not just an idiot babbling to myself. But it's still, you see, both sides of the mode are like hands off the wheel. They're just like, it's still just about hope. It's like I want this thing. I distantly want this thing. This is a thing I know that I want. There's the intention, but so from the perspective of the not self, I was thinking about this related to the ajna. So my ajna is open, or not open, it's undefined. I still have 3 gates in it and an undefined ajna. And what would be different as far as that perspective, me sharing that, voicing that, as far as it coming from my not self, would be if I was like, this is what I believe. And I was trying to tell you how certain I was. And maybe it did come off like that. Maybe that is what I was like. I don't feel that. I felt like I was light. But from the perspective of the not self, with an undefined ajna, I would try to be convincing you, or I'd try to be expressing how certain I was of my perspective, of my mental concept, the way that I conceptualize this thing. But I was just as much like, or the way that I feel is, I don't know. I can barely even talk about it. All I can really talk about is like, what is my lived experience? And that's kind of the whole thing. Like even before human design, I remember talking to my human design teacher in my first reading. I was like, we were talking about the quad right thing, the all right consciousness. And he's just like, Ashley, you're not here to figure it out. You're not here to know what's going on. And I was like, well, that's great news, because I don't think I'm doing anything. And he was like, one, exactly. But more importantly, two, you would have the cognitive architecture that would be the most amenable to that idea. I can't tell you how I got to a small island in Indonesia, but I can tell you that I did not plan it. I just responded to life and the invitations that came in to get me here. And a friend here, when I first got here, the first few days, person I was close to here was like, don't go to Bali. So I was still planning on going to Bali. And he invited me to continue staying here. He's like, I don't think you're gonna like the people, whatever the list was. You're not gonna like the motorbikes and whatever. There's so much more that could be said, I'm sure. And I'm not even sure that any of this, I even expressed anything, It's such a huge fucking topic. I could do a live on it every single day. It's huge. And there's kind of the cop out perspective of like, yeah, do I even want to go there? I don't know. Just, it's about when you know deeper levels of human design, and it's like, once you really start to connect to your strategy and authority, let's just say your authority, okay? And get that, like, it's not about what the mind thinks it wants. Because that's the thing. It's like, I've said this before. Is this even the life that I want? Or is it just my life? It's just the life that is. It's just the life that I'm meant to have. Do I still have moments where I'm like, why is my life so bizarre? Like, why can't I just want something more normal? Like, what do you mean I'm suddenly having to do lives? I did not plan that I would start doing lives for my work. I never thought I would do them. A year ago, my teacher was like, you have to do lives. And then she was like, Ashley, I think it would actually make sense that you wouldn't do them. Like, I think people could just give you referrals and that would be enough. And, but I never planned on doing them. Never thought I'd do them. All I know is my body wanted to get on a week ago, and then today or yesterday, and do this. And since I didn't do it yesterday, I have known it's the only thing that I could see. Again, my authority is inner vision cognition and my spleen. I just knew I had to get on and do it, and it wasn't going to stop until I did it. I did not plan doing lives for my business. It's just what needed to happen. And in the perspective of my whole life of like, is this the life that I want? Yeah, because it's a life that I'm living, and I feel really good doing it. But I did not plan it. I did not plan for its creation. This is a huge, I could talk about all this for an hour, right? Like, where does it stop? And even talk about the not self. There's like a whole quote I wanted to read that I posted my stories yesterday too, to break down the different not self. the different undefined centers and how it relates to the not self. The open undefined ajna is, am I trying to show how certain I am? And it's fascinating because when you come across someone who has their ajna defined, they're not trying to prove to you how certain they are. For the most part. It's just they're fixed there. It's just their way of conceptualizing things. And so the beauty of the undefined ajna is being able to have more flexibility there and see different perspectives. But as soon as they hold on to something, they're fucked because it's not what it's about. They're not meant to know. They're not meant to be certain. That's not where the wisdom is for them. It's a tough one. The undefined awareness centers, undefined ajna, undefined solar plexus and spleen, they're the toughest ones to decondition. Absolutely. Yeah. So, did I even talk about what I wanted to talk about? I don't know. I talked. That's what was important. I needed to get stuff out. I needed to do this. Yep. Open to your messages, ideas, rebuttals. Yep. Okay. I'm gonna go drink some wine and chill out and read. Good night.